1950s and 60s, Seeburg were the king of business-related music. They had a monopoly on specifically music for businesses. But, of course, other companies saw the advantage of not just selling to the public, but also selling to businesses. And they took a direct jab at Seeburg by offering a lot more variety and compatibility. With Columbia, they did not start with 33 and thirds. No, they started with 78 RPMs for businesses, like this one here, and these. There's 7 of these 78 RPMs in here. This is a strange one. It's by Seaburg, and it's clearly supposed to be like Seaburg. Of course, if someone would see this, they'd go, "Oh, Seaburg, they're a great company for my business here," and this looks like a Seaburg record. So okay, and it's 78 RPM. I could play this on my 78 RPM record and player, and I can hook it up to a loudspeaker or whatever and have it play throughout my business. Of course, then Columbia started doing 33s for businesses. Now these all came from the same business, a bank, the Industrial National Bank, to be specific about that. I'm not sure where that is, but yeah, these all came from there at some point. Of course, Columbia started doing 33s, and of course that gave Seaburg competition. Of course, these would have been sold to all kinds of businesses, not just banks. And Seaburg finally had competition in the only place they never had before, businesses. And they had to update. They had to compete. So they offered more variety. They couldn't rely on their Seaburg 1000 or 2000 anymore, which played 16 and 2/3 RPM records. They had to go with the trends. And now the 33s, 45s, and 78s. Well, 78s had been popular for a very long time, but they had to update and include 33s and 45s in their catalog. So they did. The 33s were the size of a 45 or bigger. I've done about the size of 78 or bigger. But Columbia was already offering these, which are 78 sized 33 and a third RPM records at this point. Now these are all for the same bank, the Industrial National Bank. But the point is, Seaburg finally realized if they wanted to stay in business, they had to stop selling the 16 2/3 RPM records and focus on making 33s and 45s, as those had a lot more compatibility with a lot more machines, instead of having to buy the expensive Seaburg 1000 and our 2000 that could play 16 and 2/3 specifically. Yes, that would play for a longer time, and you wouldn't have to change it, but they realized they needed to change. And of course, these would have come with a machine that would auto flip them and, auto stack them and whatnot, and, cycle through it again and again, just like Seaburg would. And with the rise of more compatibility with 33s and 45s, well, I mean, 33s and 45s were already around, but they were usually for the public, sometimes for businesses, but this was one of the first examples of specifically for businesses. Some of these are songs that you'll never hear anywhere else, and will be heard for the first time on these. As you have to remember, this is custom music for businesses to not, deal with copyright. That's what Seaburg was all about. That music was not copyrighted before. You could use it in your business without having to pay royalties or anything. You would just have to pay for the album of Seaburg Records and the machine, and you'd be free to use that music for however long you wanted, until the record wore out or whatever, and you'd buy more. But this is the story of Columbia's Seaburg.